up and keeping you updated. But remember, last week we talked about drug and alcohol abuse amongst very young children between 12 and about 16, 17. And of course, being school holidays, this was an environment that we're worried about, given that they are together. And there was an incident that we highlighted where 37 children were arrested for being drunk and disorderly, which of course was a worrying point. But now, this week, many children are going to be going back to school, and it's a relief for many parents. But should it really be a relief, given that sometimes their first point of contact for drug and alcohol abuse and availability is schools and school buses? Well, that's a question that we want to ask today and find out from those who possibly may have information. And maybe you have experience as a parent. Maybe you know a school that your child went to, and this was their first point of contact with drug and alcohol abuse. Would love to hear from you. Maybe you're a student, or maybe you're one who has recovered from drug and alcohol abuse, yet you got your first contact, or you started while you were in school. Would be glad to hear from you. So joining me in the studio is Isaiah Kitavi, who is an addiction counselor, and we're going to be talking to him briefly. But first of all, would like to start with somebody who's on the phone and is one who is recovering from drug and alcohol abuse, and we'll start off from there. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Hope?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, thank you for accepting to share with us. And maybe you can just start by sharing with us your experience of drug and alcohol abuse in school.
Mine started off after my class 8, on my class 8 vacation. And it was meeting with peers of an older age and trying to fit in with them. And of course, there are these bars around the neighborhood. And it started off by going to play pool, because that was the lie that was given at home. Then the first time I ordered a soda, then everyone looked at me like, are you sick, or is something wrong with you, and stuff like that. So I decided to order what was common on the table. I ordered a beer.
Okay.
Then it was hard to drink my first beer. But I remember the first day I took 2 Pilsners, and that's where my journey began.
So this is soon after class 8, you said?
Yeah, class 8 vacation.
Okay, and just to be clear, was yours more of drugs or alcohol?
Mine was more of alcohol. Yeah, more of alcohol.
Okay,
but
so go on.
But I was also exposed to drugs because the others were using drugs. Yeah, but I didn't get to the point where I used drugs. I just concentrated on the alcohol and cigarette part. Okay. Yeah.
So you've taken your first 2 Pilsners. How did that escalate to addiction?
It went on because it became a daily routine. Because all these guys were all working, and some were in college, and partying was normal. So as it went on a daily basis, it grew into me, and it became normal for me to take a beer. It was not bitter again. It was an enjoyment. Then after the enjoyment, I could not do without it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And given that you had just finished standard 8, of course you are quite young, where were you getting the money to fund your drinking?
From the little pocket money, and hanging out with elder people to easily purchase for me. Yeah. Okay,
and were you living at home?
Yeah, I was living with my mother and my father and my brothers.
So how did you manage to keep this away from them, or did they know?
One of my brothers knew, the one I follow, but it could not be hidden for long because, with such a habit, and it smells. But at the back of my mind, I kept deceiving myself that no one would actually tell, but the reactions, my behavior, and, the more it grew into me, the more I wanted to be out there, not confined in the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to what level did it get? Because, you know, I'm sure there are different levels of addiction. Did you get to a point where you could not do without alcohol?
Yes, yes. I got to the rock bottom part where breakfast was alcohol, feeding was not necessary, and I could not really take care of myself. I lost who I was with my drinking. Yeah, and I became an enemy to everyone.
Okay. Did you escalate from, you know, just the beers to spirits and, you know, stronger forms of alcohol?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did. Hmm.
And what were you taking at that time?
By the time I was, of course, my addiction went high, before I just went to rehab, I was drinking all kinds of spirits, especially vodka. Yeah,
All right. Thank you very much, Hope,
thank you.
for sharing that with us. And just stay with us. We'll probably come back to you as we go along. But also remember, if you do have an experience, maybe as a parent or as a student specifically, especially with exposure to drugs and alcohol in school as a starting point, and maybe as an exchange point, because we do have peddlers who work within schools, would love to hear from you. But let me chime in now, Isaiah Kitavi, who is an addiction counselor. Thank you for joining us in the studio, Isaiah.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, from your experience as a counselor, I'm sure you deal with very many young people. How young, what's the youngest age you've had to deal with somebody who's addicted to drugs or alcohol?
From 12, 13.
Already an addict, not just using.
Okay, it is subject to assessment before you say somebody is
addicted.
Is an addict, yeah. Yeah.
But what's the youngest age you've had to deal with an addict?
17.
17 years.
And addicted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, given that there is that spectrum of quite young people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol, what would you say from your experience is their starting point, access point?
The point at which they access drugs. One, I would say, there are reasons as to why young people would want to expose. There are different reasons. Different young people get into drugs for different reasons. The ones I meet, some of them tell me it's about stress. You know, coping with the stress of being a student, you know, the busy schedules of school. Others will tell you it's about wanting to belong, that the clique that does drugs in school, you know, they strike them as, you know, the people who matter. And because, you know, when the young person is during adolescence, remember in high school you're still also going through a lot of changes in adolescence. And, you know, there's a feeling of insecurity and also a desire to want to belong. So this makes it, you know, very, it becomes, you know, like a trigger for one to want to join, you know, the drug using, you know, groups. And that's how it begins. The other thing would be also an easy access to drugs.
What's the access? Because at that age, you're obviously, your times are restricted. You go home at certain times. So at what point do they access these drugs?
Okay, when we talk about the school setting, there are boarding schools and there are also, you know, the day schools.
Correct.
Now, in schools where they're mixed, both boarders and day, you find that the day scholars will, you know, come in handy as a supply system. And then again, even when it's a full boarding school, these students, you know, as they open, one of the things that they will do is that they will ensure that as they report, they come with a stock that would last them. Even if it doesn't last them, you know, drugs is one thing that once you want it, you know, there is always the person who wants to use it will get it. Sneaking will be part of it, jumping over the fence and getting to access, you know, the peddlers where they are.
Okay, given that children are actually going back to school this week, many of them boarders and day bags and all that, is it a matter of concern from your experience, because you deal with them like on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Is it a matter of concern that schools may be a point where they get drugs?
Yes, school may be a point, and it's true it's a point, because already some of them are users. And if there's anybody, a student who is using drugs, one of the things that they are really doing now, because it's, you know, opening time, they are, you know, working around the clock to see how they can, you know, sneak in, you know, substances of abuse into school.
All right, let's now move on to the fact that maybe they've got the drugs into the school, and how do they manage to keep this going without the teachers noticing?
Of course, one of the things that surrounds the use of drugs is a lot of secrecy, you know. So, and then again, users and addicts for that matter are very sharp, you know, guys who will go to any mile to make sure that they beat the systems that the school has put in terms of checking in. Of course, every school, any school that is outside there that doesn't have systems of checking in students once they report back, either from a short, you know, break home or from a long holiday like this one they went for, that school is, you know, highly vulnerable. Two, again, it does not stop at that. Putting the measures is not the only thing. The other thing would be that these guys would still work around the clock to want to beat the systems that schools have, you know, put in place in terms of managing the use of drugs. Yep.
Do we have an issue maybe with the school buses? I remember reading somewhere and somebody was telling me that sometimes the school bus also becomes a very easy and channel of exchange, because you have different students coming in, yet their level of monitoring while they're in the bus is very low.
While they are in the bus to school.
Correct.
Yeah, that is very true. Because of course, maybe where we talk of buses is where maybe a school provides a bus to pick the students maybe at the, you know, nearest
certain
town,
points,
you know,
yes.
at a certain point to their school. Of course, it will be only the driver, maybe no teacher is there. So as they get to school, you know, schools should put systems of when they check in, how do we check and ensure that we know what they have brought in school is what is necessary and it's not something to do with drugs.
Okay, we'll come to the parents, because I think they have a key role in, first of all, identifying and helping their children in regards to not get into this vice, and for those who have, to get them out. But let's start maybe with the school setup and the teachers. How is it that they escape, you know, their teachers' view, yet they're with them quite a number of hours?
They escape the teachers. One thing, for example, if the students are checking back to school, you know, the work cannot only be fought at the very day or on the very day when we're checking back to school. It has to be a continual process, which involves, you know, being very close to the students, checking on their behaviors, and teachers have to be informed. Yeah, teachers have to be informed of how does, you know, somebody using drugs present? Yeah, how do they look? What is their behavior? What are some of the suspicious behaviors that would lead one to want to suspect? I would use the word suspect because, you know, there is no way you can just look at somebody and you'll be like,
you'd have to prove it.
Yeah, because they got, you know, red short eyes. You know, you think, oh, that should be banky. No, that should not be the way. The way should be investigation, interact with them at very close range, because school is about activities. There is class, there is games, there is so many activities that take place in school. So teachers should be on the lookout in terms of, you know, are we so and so participating? Are we noting some changes in terms of their grades? Are we noting some changes in terms of their behavior? Are we noting some issues to do with, you know, discipline? Yeah.
Okay.
Those are pointers.
Pointers that are there.
Yeah.
And since we still have Hope, Hope, you did mention how you sort of hid it from your parents and those that you're living with. What about school? How did you manage to keep away from the teachers?
Most of the time, we only drank, like, say, if we went out for drama or the school function, like in the buses or outside. And where I went to school in high school, it was a much different setting because we had options to go out for shopping in the weekend. And going out for shopping is not supervised because they're moving from one place to another, and we have to show up at 5.
Okay, and did you ever bring alcohol into school, or did you only have it wherever you were and come back to school without any of it?
In the beginning, I started by having it outside. Then it escalated to a point where it was comfortable for me to take it to school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you bring it in?
Like the councillor said, Adults are very smart, and if I wanted something, I'd easily get it in. And the kind of touch we were given was not extensive, or we're not even given the point to express ourselves or talk about drugs and how it's going to affect us and our well-being. So we ended up taking our own control. And it was so much misguided to a point where I'm going to be famous if I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, given that you got into the habit over school holidays and with friends who are working, are there some that you possibly influenced within the school, now that you're already an addict, out of them watching you and now that you're able to smuggle in some, are there some who got addicted within the school setup?
Not addicted as such, but it became, like a cartel. We drink, and most of us learned how to drink from where we came from. We only needed a boost, someone to encourage. And since I was doing it and it was comfortable, so the other person maybe felt like, why not? Yeah.
Okay, we'll come to possibly some of the regrets maybe you learned over time. But do you think if there was any information or education in line with the damage that one would cause to themselves, do you think that would have played out differently for you?
Probably, but I believe most of this comes from where I was born and my background and the environment set up.
What's your background, if you don't mind me asking?
I come from a family that has a chain of addicts from my grandmother and stuff like that. Yeah, but it was not comfortable to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but if I was maybe informed that this is what happens in the family, and if you touch this, it's going to affect you in this way, and going to school as well, just being given the extra time to know about drugs, because we were doing it as fun. Okay, personally, I was doing it as it's just fun, one of those recreational things. But for a teenager, it's not healthy at all, because I should be thinking about maybe swimming and stuff like that, but alcohol became a priority.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to you, Hope. And Isaiah,
Yes.
you talked about some of the telltale signs. What are some of the telltale signs that teachers and parents should be looking out for in a student over time?
Okay, parents. Parents should be, of course, parents are supposed to establish, together times with their children, because it is only by being close to them
Through interaction.
that they are able to note if there are differences in terms of behavior, and the way the person, express themselves. Because one thing that happens immediately any person begins to interact with drugs, there begins to occur some changes. Yeah. So some of the things to note for parents. Have you been, like organizing, family get-togethers, like evening meals? Now, if somebody gets withdrawn, yeah, a son or a daughter in the family getting withdrawn, be able to get into their room, yeah. This person used to be orderly. You're seeing a trend of disorderliness that is, checking into their lives. Again, also you find them maybe irritable, getting irritable, and mostly existing on like extremes, getting too excited at some point, then at some point they are so low. Those are things that should ring a bell in the mind of a parent and be like, what could it be more than what I'm seeing? Yeah.
Okay, from a counselor's perspective, because now we want to help the parents,
Yep.
one of the mistakes we possibly make is to try and get this information in the wrong way. What's the right way to approach a child who you feel you're suspecting may have this issue?
Okay, the best way to approach would be to want to sit them down in the first place and ask them in a very friendly way if there could be any issues.
What is a
Okay.
friendly way? Because maybe we are naturally, especially when kids get to teenage,
Yeah.
there is almost a gap that
Yeah, they
comes
want
between.
to
they're
distance
separated.
themselves, and
Exactly.
they want
So
to.
what's a friendly way?
the friendly way would be, of course, remember before the child gets to teenage, you know, the child has been in the house. Of course, that should be something that should have been established in a way that there's a communication system between the parent and
the child.
So what happens is that now, when you talk to the child and you see it's like they are not coming out clearly, because chances are that they will never come out at that age, or, you know, during the experimentation stage, nobody would want to come out and say it's true that I'm doing drugs. But, you know, don't, like a parent, sit there and feel overwhelmed to deal with your child, because again, there are people that you can involve. At school, there is a guidance and a counseling teacher. You can get to know what is really happening in school other than what I'm seeing at home. It's good as a parent to follow. Is what I'm seeing at home
consistent,
still also happening in school? Now, if that happens, then that will involve even the teachers. And that's why there is a need for, you know, teamwork. The parent should not be so distanced, you know, just a matter of go back to school and then it's closing time, come back home, it's opening time. You should be very involved in the life of your child. Now, then again, even the guidance and counseling teacher, of course, there will be the telltale signs. Are there cases of indiscipline that, you know, have erupted in the course of time? Are there, you know, cases of drops in academic performance? Those issues, they ring a bell. But then again, it cannot be just presumed that it is drugs. Maybe the young person could be going through other issues that also need help. But the thing is now here, that is where now you can involve, you know, experts like us, because we will get to the bottom of the matter. That will be done through, you know, sitting them down, talking to them, and then we also do screening that can give us, you know, the clear results of what is really happening.
What is going on.
Yeah.
All right, Hope, I'll come back to you and possibly fill us in on some of the regrets now with hindsight. First of all, maybe I should ask whether you've recovered.
Yeah, I'm still, okay, you know, with addiction, we don't just recover, we recover every day.
Right.
So, like, this is a lifestyle thing, but I'm doing well. Yeah.
Okay, so when you look back, what are some of the things that you really regret?
You know, there are those things that, yes, you want to get past them, but the heart that I gave to my family especially, because I felt like, you know, I was rebelling in my own ways, and I felt like everything pointed out to me was an attack. So I became their enemy and decided to make everyone else's life as miserable as mine was getting. Yeah, I think that's my greatest regret.
Okay, now, Hope, you'll agree with me that the family obviously gets to a point of despair, trying to help this person who's maybe abusing alcohol, and they seem to always relapse and go back. What are some of the things you wish they would do and handle you with so that you would recover? Because I'm sure it was not intentional.
Yes, just believe in me and support what I'm trying to achieve. But so far, I've been getting a lot of support and I think understanding along the way, because they're both learning, me and my family. Because we're both getting into terms with the fact that this was something very, very huge. And as I heal, I think my family is healing as well.
Okay, what would you say to somebody who's living with an alcoholic and trying to help them? What would your advice to them be?
Just don't give up, because there's always a miracle. Especially when you least expect, because this person did not choose to be addicted. Maybe it's the problems that they have and the lack of the platform to express themselves. But there's always a solution to drug abuse, because it's a behavior that was learned.
Okay.
Yeah, so it can be unlearned as well with a lot of support, and the person should not be neglected. They should be brought closer to them. Yeah.
All right, thank you, and we'll come back to you. But Isaiah,
Yes, Mike.
From a counsellor now, tell me, it's somebody who's living with an alcoholic, for instance, and this is there are cases where they keep relapsing and going back, and you've done all that you can. You've taken them to rehab, and sometimes they even don't finish rehab, come home, and before you know it, they're back into the cycle. How do you help somebody in this case?
Okay, one thing that, as you're saying, it's a relapsing disease. So as you take, anybody for treatment, either it's in a rehab, you have to be, to have that in mind, that once they are out, the period that they stay there, like at our place, we do a 90-day program for recovery. Mm-hmm. And we normally say, there's no miracle in the 90 days, of course. The thing is, drug addiction is a disease. Now, the thing is, you need to change first, abstain from that drug of choice. It doesn't end there. Because again, other than being sick or addicted to the drug, your lifestyle is also sick. So you need to go ahead and change the lifestyle. And when we talk of lifestyle here, we mean, because when we talk of it as a disease, we say it's a biopsycho, social, and even these days we've put spiritual, meaning your body is sick in the first place, your mind is sick, and your relationships with other people are in a way sick. So the thing is, one, you need to abstain from that drug, whether it's alcohol or that your drug of choice. Two, you need to go ahead, and this is now the tougher part of it, to change the lifestyle, to embrace a new lifestyle that is not, resonating with the one of drug use. So simply put, we are telling this person you have to begin again like a toddler, and it's not easy. And that's why, these people are always relapsing, because they get out there, there's a way they have learned to live. Alcohol or drugs have become, like crutches for them. So it's like you remove these crutches and they become, so immobile, and they feel, I think there's a way I have known life to be, the best way would be to go back. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, as much as, the short-term period that you may stay in a rehab will help you in terms of getting, off the physical cravings for the drug of choice, there is the longer term thing that you have to engage in, and that is in terms of changing your lifestyle now. A healthy lifestyle, whereby you eat well, whereby you exercise, whereby you watch what you read, you watch what you watch, because if anything, excites you about drugs, that is already a trigger. And then again, whereby now, this is the tougher part, because you even have to establish new relationships. Yeah? You don't just get out of rehab and maybe again you're hanging out in clubs or, in using dens where you used to hang out with using guys. That is already, a trigger, and you could get back to using.
All right.
Now, for a person living with a recovering addict, for that matter, all they need is to keep assuring them, and especially immediately after they check out of treatment, if they show signs of wanting to, stay sober, it is worthwhile to keep on, appreciating them and to also keep supporting them. And at the end of the day, as she said, it's a matter of never, ever give up. We say, where there is life, there is hope.
Okay, and a good place to go to hope. Hope, from what Isaiah describes it to be, sounds like, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that you need to take. Is it that easy?
It's not easy, especially with, giving up everything and starting something that you have no idea. Because, I would say I was consumed into drugs for over 16 years. And forgetting that and restructuring my life all over again, it's not easy, but it is possible.
Okay. What is it that you wish, when you are, in that point where you've not fully gotten out of it, what are some of the things you wish people knew you're trying to do?
First of all, when I was in that process, I was hurting as a person. I felt like my inner wasn't being listened to, and coming from a family of 6, growing up with 6 boys and I'm the only girl, and it wasn't, I felt like I was left out a lot. And trying to just find a platform to make people listen to me. And I thought by rebelling, actually, I was going to be more visible. But I guess it was all in my mind.
Would you say it was a cry for attention?
I think so.
Okay, you're still not sure even as we speak, eh?
No. I know, because I know I love attention as a person. So I think I wanted to be first priority of everything, but it's not possible.
Okay, how long have you been clean, would you say?
I've been clean for a year, 10 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And what has kept you clean that long? Are there times you literally fight with yourself, wanting to go maybe raving or something?
No. Okay, first of all, I decided personally that I was tired. I was tired of the life that I had found. I was even tired of the alcohol that I was taking. And it got to a point, the alcohol didn't want me anymore.
What do you mean?
Nothing. Like, I was going to alcohol for, like, my source of support and my way of just forgetting my realities. But the alcohol got to a point where it could not have me anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Hope, for sharing your story, and congratulations for staying clean, and keep it up.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. And come back to you, Isaiah. Your advice to somebody who's struggling with addiction right now, what are the steps you'd give them? Just simple steps of how they need to get out of this.
Okay, the first step I would say is, can they admit they have a problem? Because the greatest challenge to it is a denial. If you don't feel you have a problem, like they say, allow yourself to fall sick that you may be treated. So the first step is, do a thorough, self-evaluation and be like, is it a problem or not? Be very open and, honest to yourself, because you can tell lies to everybody, but never to yourself.
Correct.
So the thing is, if you feel deep down your heart, yes, I have a problem with alcohol, I have a problem with drugs, the thing is, that is the first breakthrough. But it doesn't stop there. Some people have admitted, but they've still found it's still a challenge. So number 2 is commitment, and commitment to change. When you sit there with a thinking pattern of permanence, some people are like, now that I am here in this kind of a situation, there is no way I can change it. So the second step is to, believe in change, okay? And then after you believe in change, it doesn't stop at that level. You commit yourself to action. Now, action will involve you maybe finding some help, a counselor somewhere, so that you can get the details. Because again, recovery is not just an event, it is a process. And a process that needs also people who are in recovery to help you, experts, professionals that give you, the adequate information that you need for the journey to recovery. So it is about being open. Be open, come out clear, admit I have help, believe in change, and third, get to action.
Action.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, Isaiah Kitavi, for your wonderful words here. That's Isaiah Kitavi, who is an addiction counselor, helping us out here. And to the parents at home, really, we need to watch out for those telltale signs, because they are there. It's just that sometimes we are so busy that we do not pay attention, and we're not keen enough until it is too late. That's why we're going to wind up our interview today on lifestyle.